The NBA could look dramatically different in just a few months because today I have 6 NBA names that could be changing teams this offseason. So today's simple. We're going to talk about where they could end up and what value they could bring in return. Of course, if you enjoy, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And again, let me know down in the comments where are these stars going to be playing in 2025. The perfect word to describe the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis situation is that they're at a crossroads. And look, it's crazy to say that a top two player in the league could potentially be on the move this offseason. That's one. But for two, especially when it's the greatest player in your franchise's history, I can imagine it's going to be very hard for Milwaukee to move off of Giannis Antetokounmpo because what he's meant to the organization and to the community. However, when we talk about Giannis's career, it's best for him to move on. This is a guy that wants to compete. And with Damian Lillard now out for the entirety of next season due to that Achilles injury, this is a roster that's not going to get better this offseason because they have no cap space, no flexibility, and unless this team wants to be first round exits year after year, Giannis is going to have to request a trade and he's going to have to be traded. But that's not actually a bad situation for Milwaukee. Sure, you're losing a franchise cornerstone, but for Milwaukee, you're getting a guy, you're trading a guy that is at the tail end of his prime, and he's going to bring back one hell of a return. Plenty of picks, plenty of young players, and this is a rebuild that could be escalated overnight for Milwaukee. So for Giannis, if you want to help the organization that believed in you, that took a chance on you, and helped you become a superstar, you can actually ask for a trade, and it's actually going to help them more than hurt them this offseason. So I like Giannis to be traded, and my personal favorite spot is the San Antonio Spurs. Him next to Wemby and De'Aaron Fox just sounds like a defensive nightmare for other teams, and I just want to see it. However, Giannis wants to stay in the Eastern Conference, at least as far as the reports. So Toronto could be on the outlook, Miami, Cleveland, teams like those, but I'm interested to see where he goes. It seems like every offseason we're talking about where could Kevin Durant take his talents to? And well, let's have our annual talk. Kevin Durant is still elite, 26 and a half points a game on 53% from the field. He is still the Slim Reaper, and of course, he is one of the greatest of all time. But the Suns have just not lived up to expectations since bringing in Kevin Durant. They've had no deep playoff runs, no titles, of course, and with no depth, no picks, no cap really going forward because it's all wrapped into Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. It might be time for the Suns and Kevin Durant to move on. Just like Milwaukee and Giannis, Kevin Durant wants to compete. And unless Phoenix wants to continue being first round exits or, hey, not even making the playoffs, then it's time to make a move for both sides. Durant's not afraid of change. He's done it plenty of times in his career. And as you see in the bottom right of your screen, there's plenty of suitors that are rumored to get in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. But personally, if the Oklahoma City Thunder don't win the finals this year, why not? Let's have a perfect full circle moment. If not, I could see him pretty much going anywhere. Now, for the first time in his career, I believe Devin Booker could be on the move this offseason. A guy that is the heart and soul of Phoenix sports in general. A guy that was there with Eric Bledsoe and Ty Chandler, right? Channing Frye, trying to turn this organization around overnight. And hey, he did. He turned into a big-time star, led this team to the finals. But now it might be time for a new chapter. At 28 years old, he's still in the prime of his career, and he's still an elite scorer. But this year, he showed a little bit of versatility. He kind of took over the point guard duties to a degree there in Phoenix, and he averaged a career high 7 assists per game, which I think will entice teams around the league to want a Devin Booker, because we all know he's a bucket getter, one of the best go-to scorers in the game. But to get that extra versatility, it's not a bad sign to throw some extra draft capital towards Phoenix way. But hey, if Phoenix wants to shake things up this offseason, to move Kevin Durant, move Devin Booker, send these guys places where they can contend for a title, and Phoenix can elevate and escalate this rebuild, it's not a bad route to go, especially in a tough Western Conference where I don't think you could just move one. You got to move both if you want to compete down the line. This is the guy, Devin Booker, I want to see him go to Detroit. That's my favorite spot for him. Send him back home, and he could be a secondary ball handler, score, and just overall impact maker on this Detroit Pistons younger roster. I like that fit. Is his personality going to fit in a smaller market? Well, again, that's some things you got to worry about down the line. But Devin Booker could be on the move. I could see him in a lot of different places. But one thing I'll say, man, it's time we stop disrespecting an underrated Devin Booker. It's stop. He's still an elite top 15 player in the game. Now, next to Miles Turner, my favorite center in the NBA has been Domantas Sabonis for some time. And hey, last year, he continued to dominate in all the ways we expect Domas to dominate. 19 points a game, 14 rebounds, which led the NBA all season long. A great facilitator, shot almost 60% from the field. He has shown to be one of the most consistent and dominant big men in the game over the last half decade. In Sacramento right now, though, you're at a crossroads. Like a lot of the stars on today's list, you are in purgatory. You're going to be good, far from great, and unless this Kings team wants to continue to be a play-in or first-round exit, you got to just end this De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis era. They moved one of those last season in De'Aaron Fox. Now it is time to move the other pillar in Domas Sabonis, a guy that is going to dominate the glass for multiple teams around the NBA. And as you see, compared to others, I don't have a landing spot for Domantas Sabonis because he can do everything. He can be your backup point guard. He can stretch the floor, rebound extremely well, give you that number one or number two option to score offensively. Domas can do everything for every team. So it depends on who wants him. But ultimately, I think it's time for the Kings and Domas to go their separate ways. And for the Kings, ultimately, just blow it up, man. Keep your young core and get a lot of draft capital for these vets and try and rebuild, kind of like the Phoenix Suns. Jason Tatum's injury changes everything for the Boston Celtics. We already knew that they were going to have to make some cap moves this offseason, and due to age and Derek White's emergence, Jrue Holiday and Kristaps seem to be the guys likely on their way out of Boston. But again, the timeline has just sped up for this retooling with Jason Tatum's injury. Jrue Holiday had a down year last year. Let's just not beat around the bush. Only 11 points per game, which, though that wasn't his role, it was the lowest mark since his rookie season. He only averaged about 4 assists per game, which was the lowest in about 5 or 6 years. So down statistical year for Jrue Holiday. His defense is still elite, but it has definitely taken a step back with his age, again, becoming a concern at this point in his career. This is a guy that is a champion. He brings that championship pedigree to any organization. And honestly, I think he can fit on any team in the NBA. So that's going to open up doors for Boston to move him a lot easier than, let's say, Kristaps Porzingis. So I like Jrue Holiday. Think he's still a great top 10 defender in the game. I'm interested to see where he goes, but I think definitely it's not going to be in Boston in 2025. Now, a lot of the same sentiment with Jrue Holiday can be shared with Kristaps Porzingis, a guy that, due to Tatum's injury, the cap limitations, and his age and inability to stay healthy, he's going to be on the move this offseason, or at least I project him to be. He's still a guy that can average 19.5 points a game on 40 to 45% from three, while also protecting the rim. He's a, on paper, perfect fit for every single NBA team in the modern game of basketball. The problem with Kristaps, like I mentioned, is his availability. A guy that has only played 70 games in a season once in his career, which was his rookie season over a decade ago. Since then, he's missed about 40% of games, which is just, I think that's going to hurt the trade return package that Boston could get for Kristaps Porzingis. Because sure, these teams want to get out there and get this perfect on-fit paper player, but if he's only going to play certain percent of games, a team might not want to offer as much as if Kristaps were fully healthy all the time. So for Kristaps, he's going to be on the move this offseason, but where is the question? Again, just like Jrue, he can fit anywhere, but which team is going to pay that price, or at least the one that's Boston's asking for? I'm interested to see where that is. Now, a sleeper player here that I honestly just wanted to include because he had an incredible season given the fact that the rest of the league kind of gave up on him. Malik Beasley came out this year for the Pistons, was on the bench for the majority of it, but the second half of the year really went into the starting lineup. 16 points a game, 42% from three. He is an elite sniper, and just like many others on today's list, he can fit anywhere in the NBA. Kind of interested to see where he goes. But for Malik Beasley, honestly, I just want to include him on this list to give him his flowers. But go back to Detroit and run it back with his young core that potentially could add a player like Devin Booker. But that's going to do it. Episode 283, potentially 6 to 7 big names on the move this offseason, which, again, it's the NBA offseason. These kind of things are always fun to speculate and talk about and explore different potential situations that we could be looking at here in just a few months. But as always, if you enjoy, drop a like, subscribe, and drop a comment, man. I'll get back to every comment as quickly as I possibly can. And the last bit of news here, fantasy football returns next week on June 2nd, so be on the lookout for that.